Alright, so this is how to set the lathe to a precise angle using a dial indicator and the DRO. So the first thing that you want to do is know what your angle is. And once you've got your angle, you come take a look at this. Say that we're cutting a 30-degree angle that looks like this, and this is your compound. So your cutter is going to go in and it's going to cut at a 30-degree angle. When we translate that into a triangle, let's just say you're moving 1 inch on the Z, which makes your trig easier, and you have a 30-degree angle there. Your X is going to be, if we do a little bit of trig, come down here, tangent of 30 is equal to X over 1, opposite over adjacent. And so we know the X is equal to 1 times tangent of 30, but now we're multiplying this by 2. And the reason we multiply by 2 is because most lathes, and this lathe and our HES lathe, are a diameter reduction have a diameter reduction dial, which means that whenever you go in 10 thou, it's actually cutting 10 thou off the diameter. Versus if you have a radius reduction dial, you dial in 10 thou, it cuts 20 thou. So if you have a radius reduction dial, it multiplies by 2 for you, so you don't have to do this step. So after you get your number, which is about 1.1547, you want to keep that in mind, write it down. And for further indication, let's just say you don't want to go 1 inch on the Z, you want to go 2 inches. All you have to do is change 1 to 2. So now you're just doing 2 times tangent of 30 instead of 1 times tangent of 30. And same thing, you're multiplying by 2 here because you have a diameter reduction dial. So this is where it shows the angle. And right now we're sort of at some weird 3 degrees. So what you want to do is you have to loosen up the compound. So in this case, on the hard hinge, it's just going to be an Allen key. And then the nut is on the other side of the compound, right here. Okay, so that's loose. And if you come over here again, we know we want to cut a 30-degree taper. So just for reference, we can put a tool in there. So say we have something like this. And we know the angle that we want to cut is on the inside. So you want the compound cut inside like this. So which means we have to go clockwise of the 0. So we want to turn that to very close to 30. Right about there. And lock your compound. And so now we can see you got sort of the same setup going. So if this is your insert that's cutting, your insert is going to be moving, well, in this case the insert is not the right, if you had the right tool, your insert is going to be cutting on the inside, so going in like that. Alright, so we have to set up our dial indicator, and in order to set up the dial indicator, what you want to do is, usually they come with the sort of magnetic base, which is very helpful to have. So if you come take a look over here, I have this set up so that it's on its side, you know, horizontally out here, and sort of stick up. And you want to have this indicator face the X direction, because you want to measure the travel in the X. And if you see here, our triangle is measuring the vertical, the X. So you want to make sure it's positioned on the X axis. One thing about setting up the dial indicator is you want to make sure you have at least 1 inch of travel on the Z. So from basically just from here to here, and you want to have it touch the compound. So let me do the process, and you'll sort of explain. You'll sort of know why we need 1 inch. So the process is basically go out on your X until your dial reads 0. We got our 0 there. Now what we want to do is go to our DRO and set both your X and your Z to 0. After you've done that, you want to travel 1 inch to the right on the Z axis. And you can sort of tell based off of the number on the bottom of the DRO. So you want to get that to exactly 1 inch. That's probably fine for this purpose. And now you want to go out until your compound reads 0, or your dial indicator reads 0 again. And now you know why it's important to have 1 inch, because take a look. I mean, we're almost at the edge of the compound. So yeah, it's better to have 1 inch or more, preferably more, because then you can, test multiple different angles or multiple different measurements to see if your angle is right. So go out until you reach 0 on the dial indicator, and then you read this number, 1.17, and you know the number to reach is 1.1547. So now what you have to do is go to 1.1547 on the DRL. And now you read the dial indicator. So now we know that the dial, this dial now reads about 8 thou. So now what we want to do is take your hammer, and that's the other way, so we have to hit from here. Hit it with your hammer until this dial reads 0. And then lock up the compound again. Take this out. And now we sort of got a good number to go off of. Now we just have to repeat the process. So back to 0, around 0 here on the DRO, and then back to around 0 on the Z. And this time I'm gonna go a little bit more, see if I can get a little bit more travel. So I can just move my indicator a little bit. Maybe adjust this. Yeah. So something like that is probably a bit better. Okay, so now we're just gonna repeat the same process. So we have it set up over here now. It's a little bit further, so we have more travel. So let's go to 0 on the dial indicator. And then same thing here, 0, 0. 1 inch to the right. And then back out until the dial indicator reads 0. And now we have 1.1596. And that's really close. So 1.1547 is again our number. So in most cases, this is probably good enough. But if you want to get to like really within a range of accuracy, again, you go to 1.1547 and then read the dial indicator. And now this is only about 2 thou off. So still really, really close. Again, take your hammer. And all right, so wrong way, go from this side. Tap your compound. Oh, no, this was the right way. Okay, so tap your compound until it reads 0 again. All right, and lock it up a little bit more. All right. Again, same thing. So now you know what to do. Go back to 0. Go back to around 0. Cut you off on the dial indicator. 0 on the dial indicator. 0 on the DRO. 1 inch to the right. And then out. Zero on the dial indicator. And we have 1.1536. So again, you can keep doing this until you get your number. Eventually, after a few tries, you'll land almost exactly on 1.1547. And I highly suggest you, because this lathe is a little short on clearance and travel, I was only able to test 1 inch. But if you have a bigger lathe, then I highly suggest you to test, different, instead of going like 1 inch on the Z, go 2 inches. And then all you have to do is multiply that number by 2. And maybe tested it along the range of your compound if you wanted to get really exact. But that's essentially how you dial in a near perfect angle on the lathe. And yeah, I hope you found it useful.